What happens when a calm conversation turns into a moment so tense that even the hosts don't know how to recover? The lights are bright. The cameras are rolling. The audience is already warmed up, expecting another lively but controlled discussion. But what they don't know, what no one in that studio knows, is that within the next few minutes, something will shift. Something uncomfortable. Something real. Before we dive into this moment, make sure to subscribe to the Viral Breakdown, like this video, and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is one of those stories you won't forget. The set feels familiar: polished table, confident smiles, rehearsed energy. Sunny sits upright, composed, her posture signaling control. She's done this 1,000 times. She knows how to steer conversations, how to challenge, how to dominate a discussion without ever losing her cool. Across from her sits Scott. Relaxed. Almost too relaxed. There's a subtle difference in his demeanor tonight. Not aggressive. Not defensive. Just prepared. The segment begins lightly. A discussion about culture, politics, and influence. Topics that usually spark debate but stay within the boundaries of television etiquette. Sunny leans forward slightly, her tone measured but firm. So let's be clear, she says, her eyes locking onto Scott. There's a responsibility that comes with having a platform. Words matter. Influence matters. And sometimes, people in positions like yours overlook the real-world consequences. A few nods ripple through the audience. This is familiar territory. Comfortable tension. Scott smiles faintly. Not dismissive. Not amused. Just aware. I agree, he responds calmly. Words do matter. But so does honesty. There's a slight pause. It's barely noticeable, but it's there. Sunny catches it. Her expression tightens just a fraction. Of course honesty matters, she replies. But honesty without accountability can be dangerous. Now the energy shifts. The audience senses it. A subtle lean forward. A quiet anticipation. Scott tilts his head slightly, studying her, not confrontationally, but thoughtfully. An accountability without perspective, he says slowly, can become selective. The room stills. It's the first real spark. Sunny's smile fades, not completely, but enough to reveal something underneath. Something sharper. What exactly are you implying? She asks. The question hangs in the air. Scott doesn't answer immediately. And that silence, it stretches. You can almost hear the tension building, like pressure inside a sealed room. I'm saying, he finally begins, his voice steady, that sometimes we choose who we hold accountable based on what fits the narrative we're comfortable with. A few murmurs from the audience. This isn't the usual back and forth anymore. This is something else. Sunny leans back slightly, crossing one leg over the other. A defensive adjustment, but subtle enough that only those watching closely would notice. I don't think that's fair, she says, her tone sharper now. If you're suggesting that people here, or anywhere, are being selective with accountability, you need to be specific. There it is. The line has been drawn. Scott exhales quietly. Not frustrated, focused. All right, he says. Let's be specific. The audience goes silent. Completely silent. Even the co-hosts glance at each other, sensing that this conversation is drifting away from safe ground. Scott continues, his voice calm but deliberate. There are moments when public figures are criticized harshly, and rightfully so. But there are also moments when similar actions from others are defended, excused, or ignored. And that inconsistency, it shapes public perception more than the truth itself. Sunny doesn't interrupt this time, but her eyes narrow slightly. Inside her mind, the gears are turning fast. Where is he going with this? Is he challenging me, or the show? She leans forward again, reclaiming space. So you're saying there's bias, she says. That people, maybe even us, are guilty of it. Scott meets her gaze directly. I'm saying everyone is capable of it, he replies. Including me. Including you. A ripple moves through the audience. That sentence lands heavier than expected. Because it's not aggressive. It's honest. And honesty, in a setting like this, can feel like confrontation. Sunny's jaw tightens slightly. She wasn't expecting this tone. Not defensive. Not hostile. Just uncomfortably direct. That's a very broad statement, she says. And it sounds like you're trying to blur responsibility rather than clarify it. Scott shakes his head gently. No, he says. I'm trying to widen the lens. Another pause. Longer this time. The kind of pause that makes producers uneasy backstage. the kind that makes viewers lean closer to their screens. Sunny's thoughts race again. He's not backing down, and he's not playing the usual game. Her voice lowers slightly, more controlled now, but carrying an edge. Let me ask you something, she says. Do you think conversations like this, on platforms like this, help move things forward? Or do they just create more division? Scott doesn't hesitate this time. They reveal division that already exists, he says. The audience reacts, soft gasps, a few scattered claps, quickly fading into silence again. Sunny watches him carefully. There's something different about this exchange now. It's no longer just a debate. It's a moment. A real moment. Unscripted. Unfiltered. And slightly out of control. She inhales slowly, steadying herself. Then let's reveal it, she says. The words are calm, but they carry weight, because now she's stepping into it. Fully. The co-hosts shift in their seats. One of them glances toward the producers off camera. This isn't how the segment was supposed to go. Scott nods once, respectfully, but there's a quiet intensity behind his eyes now. All right, he says. Let's do that. The audience leans in again. The tension thickens. And for the first time since the segment began, no one is quite sure what's going to happen next. Not the hosts. Not the audience. Not even Sunny herself. But one thing is certain. This conversation is no longer safe. And it's only just beginning. The air in the studio feels heavier now. Not dramatically, but undeniably. Something has shifted. Sunny holds her posture, eyes locked on Scott, her composure intact, but there's a sharper edge now. She's no longer just guiding the conversation. She's defending ground. Scott remains calm, almost unnervingly so. Relaxed posture, measured breathing, but now fully engaged. This isn't casual anymore. Sunny breaks the silence. All right, she says, steady but firm. Let's talk about this wider lens. Because to me, that sounds like a way to avoid taking a clear stance. A few murmurs ripple through the audience. Scott nods slightly. That's fair, he replies. But clarity doesn't always come from narrowing things. Sometimes it comes from seeing the full picture, even when it's uncomfortable. Sunny leans forward, hands planted on the table. Then let's make it uncomfortable, she says. A quick burst of applause, uncertain, divided. Scott studies her for a moment. Then, let me ask you something. Sunny nods. Go ahead. A brief pause. Careful. Intentional. When a public figure says something controversial, what drives the reaction? He asks. The statement itself, or who said it? The question lands deeper than expected. Sunny doesn't answer immediately. Inside, she's already analyzing. He's setting a trap. Any answer can be twisted. It depends, she says. Context matters. History matters. Scott nods. I agree, he says. But are those standards applied equally? The tension rises again. Sunny exhales slowly. No, she says. Because not all situations are equal. And pretending they are is misleading. Mixed reactions from the audience. Some claps. Some silence. Scott leans in slightly. I'm not saying everything is equal, he says. I'm asking if judgment is consistent. Sunny tilts her head. Consistency is ideal, she replies. Reality is more complex. Scott's voice lowers slightly. And that complexity is where bias hides. Silence. That line hits. Hard. Sunny's fingers press lightly against the table. His reframing everything. Not attacking, just shifting the ground. So what are you suggesting? She asks. Ignore context. Treat everything the same. Scott shakes his head. No. I'm suggesting we question our instincts before trusting them. Another pause. Longer this time. Even the co-hosts are quiet now. Watching. Waiting. And what happens, Sunny presses, when that leads people to justify things that shouldn't be justified? It happens, Scott says calmly. But the alternative is worse. Sunny narrows her eyes. Worse how? Because when we stop questioning ourselves, he says, we start believing we're always right. A stronger reaction this time. The audience is splitting. You can feel it. Sunny notices. This isn't just debate anymore. It's influence. Control. Narrative. She leans forward again. There's a difference between self-reflection and false equivalence, she says. And I think you're blurring that line. Scott pauses, just briefly. You're right, he says. That line exists. Sunny presses. and crossing it is dangerous. Scott nods. But so is pretending it doesn't. Silence again. Heavy. Unresolved. Sunny exhales slowly. This isn't going how she expected. Not because she's losing, but because control itself is slipping. She glances at the audience. Some are fully engaged. Others look uneasy. The room is dividing. She turns back. "Let me be clear," she says, voice sharper now. "Conversations like this shape how people think. That comes with responsibility." "I agree," Scott says. The simplicity throws her, just for a moment. That's exactly why they need to happen. Another ripple through the room. Stronger. Louder. Sunny feels the pressure building. He keeps agreeing, but redirecting. His not confronting, his destabilizing. "So what's your goal?" she asks directly. Because right now, it sounds like questions without answers. A few claps. Scott doesn't react. Instead, he looks at her steadily. "Sometimes," he says slowly, "the most important thing isn't the answer." A pause. It's asking the question that makes people uncomfortable enough to think. Silence. Complete. Sunny doesn't respond right away. For the first time. She doesn't have a quick counter. And in that moment, something shifts. Subtle, but real. The co-hosts exchange glances. No one interrupts. Because now, this is building towards something bigger. Sunny straightens, resetting her composure. Her voice returns, calm, controlled. "Then let's keep asking," she says. Scott nods once. "Let's." And just like that, the conversation continues. But now, it's no longer a discussion. It's a collision waiting to happen. The collision doesn't happen all at once. It builds. Quietly. Like pressure tightening in a sealed room. Sunny sits perfectly still now, her posture controlled, her expression composed. But her eyes are sharper than before. Focused. Calculating. She's no longer reacting. She's preparing. Scott watches her, reading the shift. He knows this moment isn't about general ideas anymore. It's about to get specific. And specific is where things become dangerous. Sunny leans forward slowly, her voice calm, but carrying a new weight. "Let's stop speaking in generalities," she says. Because when things stay vague, people can hide behind them. The audience leans in. "This is it." Scott nods once. "All right," he says. Sunny holds his gaze. "You've been talking about inconsistency, about selective accountability," she continues. "So let me ask you directly, do you think platforms like this one contribute to that?" The question lands with force. Not loud, but precise. Scott pauses. And this time, the pause is longer than any before. Because now, every word matters. Inside his mind, calculations move quickly. If I deflect, I lose credibility. If I answer directly, I change the tone completely. He exhales quietly. "Yes," he says. The audience reacts instantly, gasps, murmurs, a few scattered claps. Sunny doesn't move. But inside, there it is. She presses immediately. "In what way?" she asks. Scott leans forward slightly, mirroring her intensity now. "In the same way every platform does," he says. "By shaping narratives, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally." Sunny's expression tightens. "So now it's the platform," she says. "Not the individuals." Scott shakes his head. "It's both," he replies. "But the platform amplifies what individuals choose to emphasize." A co-host shifts uncomfortably beside them. The tension is no longer subtle. It's visible. Sunny turns slightly toward the table, then back to Scott. Her voice sharpens. "Are you suggesting that we, on this show, push certain narratives over others?" The audience holds its breath. Scott doesn't look away. "I'm suggesting," he says carefully, "that every show, every network, every voice, including this one, has patterns. And those patterns influence what people see as truth." A louder reaction this time. Some clapping. Some audible disagreement. The room is splitting in real time. Sunny feels it. "And now," she leans in harder. "That's a serious claim," she says. "Because people trust what they hear here." Scott nods. "And that's exactly why it matters," he says. The simplicity of his answer lands again. Clean. Direct. Uncomfortable. Sunny's patience is thinning now. Not breaking, but tightening. "Let me ask you something else," she says. Her tone is controlled, but there's heat beneath it now. "Do you think challenging a platform like this, live, in front of an audience, actually helps the conversation? Or does it just create doubt where clarity is needed? Scott doesn't hesitate. It creates awareness, he says. Sonny immediately responds. Or confusion. Sometimes confusion, Scott admits. But confusion isn't always a bad thing. The audience reacts again. Stronger. More divided. Sonny shakes her head slightly. No, she says. Confusion can be dangerous. Especially when people are already struggling to figure out what's true. Scott leans forward again. And certainty without questioning can be even more dangerous, he says. That lands hard. A pause follows. Long. Heavy. Sonny's gaze doesn't break. But internally, the tension is peaking. He's not backing down. He's pushing further. And now it's not just about ideas. It's about us. The realization settles in. This isn't just a debate anymore. It's a direct challenge. Not aggressive, but undeniable. She shifts slightly in her seat, grounding herself. Then, she changes strategy. Her voice softens. Not weaker. Sharper. More precise. Let's bring this back to something real, she says. Scott watches closely. She's pivoting. And let's talk about impact, she continues. Because at the end of the day, these conversations affect real people. Real lives. A few audience members nod. The energy shifts slightly, less combative, more serious. Sonny sees the opening. And when influential voices question systems, platforms, or accountability, she says, there's a ripple effect. People start doubting everything. Scott listens carefully, then responds. Or they start thinking for themselves, he says. The room reacts again, this time louder than before. Sonny's expression tightens. Not everyone has the tools to navigate that kind of uncertainty, she fires back. Scott doesn't raise his voice. But they never will, he says, if we only give them answers instead of questions. That's the moment. The line that changes everything. A wave of reactions hits the room. Gasps. Claps. A few audible wow-s. Even one of the co-hosts leans back, visibly stunned. Sonny goes still. Completely still. Because she feels it too. That shift. That moment where the conversation stops being controlled and becomes something else entirely. Her thoughts race. If I push harder, this escalates. If I pull back, I lose ground. For the first time. There's no perfect move. She inhales slowly, then speaks. But there's a responsibility, she says quietly, to guide those questions, to make sure they don't lead people somewhere harmful. Scott nods. I agree, he says. Again, agreement, but not surrender. And that responsibility, he continues, belongs to everyone in the conversation. Sonny studies him, longer this time, trying to read him, trying to find the angle. But he's steady, grounded, unmoved. The audience is completely locked in now. No whispers, no distractions, just silence, waiting. Sonny finally speaks again. And what happens, she asks, when people use those questions not to understand, but to divide? Scott's answer comes slower this time, more deliberate. Then we call that out too, he says. A pause. But we don't stop asking. The words settle over the room. Heavy, unavoidable. Sonny leans back slowly. Her expression resets again. But something has changed. Not just in her, in the entire room. Because now, this isn't just a conversation. It's a moment people will remember. A moment that feels unscripted, uncontrolled, real. The co-hosts glance at each other again. One of them finally shifts forward slightly, as if about to speak, to step in, to redirect. But before she can, Sonny lifts her hand slightly, stopping it, not breaking eye contact with Scott. She's not done. Not yet. Then let's take it one step further, she says. Her voice is calm, but the weight behind it, heavier than anything before. Scott nods slowly. Go ahead. The audience leans in one last time. Because now, they can feel it. The edge. The breaking point. The moment where everything either holds together or completely falls apart. And whatever happens next, there's no coming back from it. The breaking point doesn't explode. It lands. Quiet. Heavy. Final. Sonny holds his gaze for a long moment, the studio completely silent around them. No movement. No whispers. Just tension hanging in the air like something waiting to snap. Then she speaks. All right, she says, her voice calm, but firm. Let's make it clear. A pause. You're sitting here, on this platform, questioning how platforms shape truth. So I'll ask you directly, do you believe shows like this mislead people? The question hits harder than anything before. Because now, there's no abstraction, no philosophy, just a line drawn in the center of the table. Scott exhales slowly. This is it. No safe answer. No middle ground. Yes, he says. The audience reacts instantly, gasps, a few loud claps, others shaking their heads. The tension finally breaks into noise. Sunny doesn't react right away. But inside, that's the moment. You think we mislead people, she presses, her tone sharper now. Scott leans forward slightly. I think every platform has the potential to, he says. Including this one. Sunny shakes her head. That's not the same thing, she says. You're sitting here benefiting from this platform while criticizing it. Scott doesn't flinch. I'm participating in it, he replies. And that includes questioning it. The audience reacts again, louder, more divided than ever. Sunny leans in, her voice tighter now. But questioning it like this, Liv, undermines trust. And trust matters. Scott nods once. It does, he says. But trust isn't built by avoiding hard questions. That line lands. Hard. A wave of reactions moves through the room. Some applause, some discomfort, some silence. Sunny goes still again. Not defeated, but recalculating. Because she knows. This moment is no longer just happening in the studio. It's already bigger than that. She straightens, her voice returning to controlled calm. And what about responsibility? She asks. Because when millions of people are watching, words don't just stay here. Scott meets her gaze. Then we choose them carefully, he says. But we still say them. A pause. Sunny looks at him for a long second. Then, she leans back. The signal is subtle, but clear. She's stepping out of the direct clash. Not conceding, but ending it. For me, she says, turning slightly toward the audience, responsibility means making sure people walk away informed, not uncertain. A few claps rise from the crowd. Scott nods respectfully. And for me, he adds, it means making sure they are thinking, not just agreeing. The room reacts one last time. Then, silence. The segment wraps shortly after. But the tension doesn't. It lingers. In the audience. In the hosts. In the air that never quite resets. And the moment the camera is cut, everything changes. Backstage, the energy is different. Conversations are quieter. More careful. Producers exchange looks. Some impressed. Some concerned. One of the co-hosts exhales, shaking her head slightly. That went further than expected. Meanwhile, clips are already spreading. Online, the reaction is immediate. Some viewers praise Scott for saying what others won't. Others defend Sunny, calling out what they see as a risky narrative. Debates ignite across social media. Comments flood in. Was he right? Did she shut him down? Or did this just expose something bigger? The moment becomes more than a segment. It becomes a talking point, a divide, a viral storm. And at the center of it, two people who never raised their voices, but changed the tone of the entire room. Days later, the tension still lingers. Replayed, analyzed, debated. Because it wasn't just what was said. It was how it was said. Calm, direct, unavoidable. And maybe that's why it hit so hard. Because there was no explosion. No chaos. Just truth, colliding with perspective. And neither one backing down. So now we turn it to you. Who do you think was right? Did Scott push necessary questions? Or did Sunny draw an important line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the Viral Breakdown for more moments that go beyond the surface.